Hello, this is a video on Background Designer, the beta version. I've recently just made a build of this and I want to show you guys where it's at because I'm going to release this shortly and I'm going to talk over the UI. So first up, we've got our file menu, open and save background files, export the combined merged image, whether it's got the pixel shaders on it or not, show you that soon. Export layers, that doesn't include the pixel shaders, but it will give you the separate layers that you've painted on for bringing back into your game and adding some sort of pixel shader in there. There's a whole bunch of little swatches been made here. You right click on these to call them, to like copy them in. You can make your own ones by clicking on the color and just changing things down here. You can use the red, green, blue sliders, and you can left click to store these. Right click will recall them, middle click will restore the original default ones. So there's a few here been made for you that you can try out, those gradients. So down this way there is more swatches, same idea, right click to recall, middle mouse to restore, and left click to store. And these affect your brushes. So if I was to put this cloud down, for example, and I'm actually going to hold down control as I do this, or press control, and that will update the last brush so I can see what kind of colours these get, and I can go and make some fine-tune adjustments. Again, just tap control for that to update, otherwise it's going to affect the next brushes. So that's how that works. There's this clear mode and solid mode. So what this does is, so if I put this down so you can see, and I move this from clear to solid. Now clear mode will treat everything as transparent unless you bring it in, right? So if I bring in the base tones, you can see it looks like solid, right? But if there's no base tones, just the blue tones, so solid mode basically keeps the base in a way. It kind of treats it like that, right? And it can be handy. So solid mode, and then you can ask it to bring in some of the quote-unquote blue tones. That is the blue tones from the original. You see they get transformed to this green tone, and then you can bring these in. So you can choose to have it be semi-transparent and also change up that color. And just be mindful, if you're holding down control and you change one of these colors and you click on it, it's basically going to update the rest of them. So only press control to see that update. So they've got an interesting looking cloud like that. So every brush has got original colors that they were made with. Let me just bring all these back. I'm just going to press F2 to reset those. So that's the original colours that they were made with, and now if I change something like this back to, let's go to the new colour, this is what's been swapped out. So any black tones we can swap out for red ones. I'm just tapping control just to update that. If you control click here and click, you're holding control down and you click, it's going to give it everything the same colour. So any blue tones you can see up here, you can change for another one. Just going to update that. You can hold down control, but just beware when you hold control here, it's going to map these tones to other ones. Okay, I'm letting go, and then this one, let's change that to yellow, just control to update. And any green tones, so I can see a little bit of the left there, let's make that white. And there you go, that's you got a unique colorized brush. All your brushes are kept in these sets. So there's 8 default sets, and I will still be adding brushes to these. There's a few gaps that say reserved, especially in the later sets. So there's a whole bunch reserved here for me to add more. A couple here, a couple here and here, and a whole set of me to update. There's also the user sets that you can bring in your own brushes. Alright, so I'm just going to control backspace to clear everything, and yeah, I don't want to just use these clouds. There's other clouds I can use and dot these around. Now you might be thinking, well, all these brushes just look the same size. You can actually use the mouse wheel up and down to change the size of the brush. If you hold down Control and mouse wheel, it's much faster, and if you hold down Shift and mouse wheel, it's much slower. Alright, so you can get any sort of size you want. You can also flip it horizontally by pressing X, so you get symmetrical, and Y, if you press Y, you'll get it flipping vertically. And if you want to rotate it, you press R for rotate to the right and E to rotate to the left. So it's quite handy because those two keys are right next to each other on the keyboard. You get some interesting effects. So Control Backspace clears all the plots, and if you want to reset the rotation, just hold down Control whilst rotating and have a look at this number up here, and then once it's at 0, that's you. So actually using Control with E and R rotates 5 degrees, and Shift with E and R actually rotates faster. You can also plot more than one if you hold down Shift. It's almost like drawing, and you can draw a lot more. Okay, so Control Backspace. Let's just reset the rotation. A quick way to reset rotation is just come off the click on a different brush and come back again, or any different brush you click on basically resets that. Another cool thing you can do with brushes is you can hold down Control and click a few of these, and it's basically going to choose these at random. So whatever you click down, it's going to choose those at random, and they all adopt these same colours. You can actually press Tab to change these colours up. Every tab does something different. The first press of Tab will try and sample the mouse area near the mouse based on the brush size. The second tab press will try and sample the document for colours, and the third press will just do random. So pressing Tab 3 times gives you random colours. Okay, not looking much like a usable background just yet, so I'll just clear everything. And covered most things here apart from the cutout amount, so I want to show you what that does. Let's just click that down and I'll make nicer colours here. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Nice sky. And if I hold down Control whilst moving this, you can see what this does, right? So holding down Control just updates the last brush, and the next brushes will get the same kind of effect. So this just takes away the soft transparency and turns it into cutout transparency where it's kind of all or nothing. And that's handy for the pixel modes that I'll talk about. When you want to turn off the background, you just want to have that pure pixel sort of shape. So I'll talk about that in a second. So that's everything there. This is just some debug information for me while I develop this tool. There's grid information. You can press G to bring up, H to bring up the grid, and you can also use these checkboxes. It's hard to see the grid right now. Let's just make a darker background. Let's clear everything. I'm going to press B just to toggle the brush off, and if I hold down Control and press G, Shift and press G, Control press G, it goes through all these different grid sizes and gives you different options, right? And that just goes through all the grid modes. Shift and G will kind of offset it a bit. So if you Control G will change the grid size, and Shift G will offset it. And then any brush that you use is going to snap to that grid. So that's kind of handy. So I'm just going to turn the grid snapping off, show grid off, and that pretty much covers that part. Down here is 3 buttons that cover the final document size. So if you make a document and you want it to be much bigger, so you kind of want to draw a lot smaller if you're going to use the biggest document size, so you can make a full bigger scene like this, have your little clouds, and then have your what kind of land areas down there. That could be your ground that your character walks on. You know, some little rocks down here. Change your sky. So I'm using spacebar to change the sky really quickly to get random ones, but you can pick any of these, remember. So that's, you got that. And yeah, so you get a bigger document. Now you might want it to tile horizontally, so just press W, or you can come up to wrap mode. What that will do is it will plot any brushes that you put on the side. It will do the other half. So that ensures it's tileable, as you can see down the bottom there. Okay, so that is what that does. And yeah, you can change this to be a much bigger document, so you keep a lot of the resolution here. So if I save this, I'll just do export image, and I can call this background test. Right, so that's just going to give me a PNG at this big resolution. Now if I open that up in Photoshop, let's just check that again. Let's just save that to desktop just in case I saved it somewhere else. Let's just call it A. Check that's saved. Yeah, that's there. I must have saved it somewhere else. Okay, so open that up in Photoshop. You can see it's a really big document, and we get a lot of this, you know, this information back. So that looks quite nice. So it's a massive document. If you've got like a small sprite about, I know, like 100 by 100 pixels, you know, it's going to work quite well for a bigger distance. So that would be your tileable background, kind of like they did in the old cartoons. Okay, so back in here, so you can make that the output size any size you want. Cool. Another cool thing you can do, if you press F3, you can make everything get updated values. So you can change things. So F3 will switch to an override mode. Now, there's no button for that yet, but it does tell you down here. It's a new feature that I'm working on, and everything will get the same tone. So if I press tab, you see everything's going to get either the random tone, near the mouse tone, or from the document. This is from the document, this is random, and this one's near the mouse, based on the scale of the brush. Right, let's hide that. So that's quite a nice look. If you do like the look of these palettes, remember you can just left click anywhere on these slots to override them. They do get refreshed when you restart the software. So I'll be working on a few more features related to that, and I'll bring that into some UI buttons. And okay, over to the right side, you've got options. So let me just clear everything and bring the brush back on. W to turn the wrap off. You've got this option of flip rotation, right? So flip rotation basically means if I've rotated the model and I press X, it stays on the same axis. But with flip rotation, it will also flip it that way, and that can be handy for mirroring sort of things, getting a kind of mirrored look to things. So with that off, I try to do the same thing. It's a little bit trickier because it doesn't flip the rotation, no matter if I do X or Y flipping. So it can be useful. There's the option for texture filtering, just to get a little bit more smoother pixels out of things, but don't really use that very much. There's this use pixel, that's only available in the pixel mode. The grids you've seen. Ignore the backdrop so that you can just work in transparency, and you can kind of make up your own little brushes this way. To make up your brushes, there's this tool here called the capture brush tool, and you just drag over what you want. I'll call this new rock. Oops, let's do that correctly. New rock. And oh, it came out of some sort of mode there, but maybe a bug. So it's made this new rock into my user wherever there was a space, so it's used the next available space and gave me this. So you can easily capture your own brushes, make your own brushes up. So I can make another new brush, this, and I think there might actually be a bug here when I basically captured this, everything went a weird blue colour. I think I know what that is, something that I recently changed. So call this test 1, and that seems to be okay now. I think it was in a certain mode and just come out of it. Right, so there you go, you can make up your own brushes. Let's bring the background back. Tab to change the colours of this. Make sure I'm on new colour. So this original colour, as I showed you before, is the colours that you either capture it at or bring it in like. So you can bring in your own sprites and things, and so you can see now I'm changing that to a new colour like that. And you can always hold down Control to see how that looks in between. Tab to randomize things up a bit. So you can use Tab and Control to see an update of the last brush. So Control just basically, if you press Control near here but not on these, it will just update the previous brush and show you what the rest are going to look like. So then you can make a nice pattern like that. Cool. So there's other options like random color, change the color range. So every time you click, it's going to give you slightly random tone. It's very hard to see. You really need to ramp that up a bit higher, but it's giving everything a slight tint, and that can be useful. Yeah, and also if you put the new color up higher, it's more obvious, and less obvious when you go for the original color. So you can kind of use it in conjunction with that. You got the random rotation and the rotation range. So if I do no random rotation, it just stays the same, but I bring that range up. You see it gives us random stuff there. There's also random flip X, which will also flip the image, and also random scale, so we get different scales. So all of that together, and you hold down Shift while you draw, you can draw lots more that way and make up even more patterns. Tab to change the colours, switch for new colours, and you can make up some interesting looking stuff. So we've got that massive colour range there. Let's just change that a bit. So now we get in something random each time, a bit more colour range. There we go. And use Tab at any point in time to change things again. Okay, so that covers most of these. The wrap mode, basically if you draw something this side, it's going to draw it in the other and give you a continuous tileable horizontal image. Yeah, and there's something called shifting. If you hold down the right mouse button, you can shift the image around to go to a different sort of area that you like. But that breaks the wrapping system. So that's really just a look around. You can turn that off just by unclicking. You got customize UI. It won't save this just yet, but with that switched on, if you hold down Control, you can move the buttons around. Move them wherever you like. I'll just press F6 to reset. Okay, alright, and let's bring back that nice sky. So that is most of these. Parallax mode is based on what you put in each layer. So I'm going to go back to that test one that I did. Let's start on layer 10, and I'll put a few of these in here. I'll go to layer So the further down you are, the closer to the background you'll be. So let's go to layer 5, and I'm just going to do half the opacity. Scale these down a bit so they look far away. Just press W to bring on the wrap mode. I'll put a few of these back here. And make them even smaller. I'll press 3 to get even lower opacity. So you can press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 to get 10% increments of the opacity there. So I'll just press 3, I'll go to a lower layer, and I'll just dot some of these behind like this. Now I'm going to switch on the Parallax Mode, and you can see the effect that has. So it kind of shows you what your layers might look like if you were to build those up and you wanted to make a parallax scrollable background. So if you did do this, you would export your layers as oh, it's not switching off. Okay, that's off. So you can export your layers that you've drawn on. Now I could leave it at layer 0, that at layer 5, and that at layer 10. And as you can see, when you hover over these, it gives you a preview down the bottom. Otherwise, it shows you a preview of the current sprite that you're on, and you can switch this between like the colors that it was made with, or the current colors over here having the effect on it. So you can toggle that on and off, and that will update as you go over them again. So that's kind of handy. So as far as the layers are concerned, they just use these layer names if you were to export. So you can do export layers, let's call this test layers, and let's just have a look to see. So it's giving me the background as its own layer, layer 0, layer 5, and layer 10. But you can rename these, so I can call this like far away, could be clouds or anything. This could be, yeah, this could be the clouds layer, and then go up to foreground. Right, so I could export them like that. I could even change the gradient just for something different. Let's do that again. So export layers, or Control L, and let's call this test 2. Takes a few seconds, and as you can see, so with test 2 we've got test 2 clouds, test 2 far away, test 2 foreground, and test 2 gradient back. So the gradient back is the actual gradient you see there, so you can easily change that later, do your own gradient backgrounds. Okay, so that done, there's something that I've not covered yet, and that is the pixel mode. So there's different modes here. There's this one that gives you the Commodore 64 look and feel. You've got some dither patterns, and also the dither range, and a few different blending modes, just to see, you know, which one looks best for your needs. When you save this as layers, it won't save them with the pixel mode. It will save them just like this. It doesn't apply the pixels, but otherwise you can save the image, and it will just be a kind of baked, merged down version like this. So you kind of have to think about how you're going to work if you want to work with these baked pixels. Because it's a shader, it doesn't necessarily write all the opacity correctly. But there's a few ways around that. You can press I to turn off the background, and you can also make sure everything's got like the cutout effect, and that will kind of make sure that none of the edges have got any opacity or bleeding through or anything like that. So opacity won't work in this method, it will just kind of cut the image out. And you could later in Photoshop just, you know, pick this grey colour, the black colour, and take it away. That's only if you want to use the actual pixel look, but I'd recommend just using shaders inside your engine for that, and that's a couple of things I've been working on as well. And later when they're ready, I'll include them for Unity and Unreal. Okay, so there's different modes again. I'm just going to bring back the background. We've got different dithers, different pixel modes. This one's the Commodore 64. This one's like a double resolution, extra colours, kind of theoretical next generation Commodore 64, one that was never made, but I could imagine it looking this kind of style. This is Sega Master System. This one's just a made up palette, nice big chunky pixels. It's a palette of 64 colours. It tells you the number of colours here and the resolution. This one's got 128 and it's 320 by 188. This one's 64 colours, similar to the one here. You can see it's just got double resolution. And then there's this last one. So whatever image you choose to bring in, you'll see that it will make a pretty good digitization of it. So let's find something like what I made earlier. So there's this little sci-fi corridor that I made, and if I turn off the pixel mode, you can see it just looks like a regular drawing. Okay, so I'm going to plot that down there, and let's just make it look symmetrical like that. So we've got this kind of sort of let's just turn the wrap mode off. Got this kind of tiled symmetrical corridor. So I can change the pixel mode here, and we get this immediate result. We can change the dither range, and we go through the sort of different pixel blend modes. We get this darker look, and we can change the pixel pattern and dither pattern. That one's quite nice. Change the range of that, and then let's shift to a different mode. You see there's more definition there, and yeah, that one looks pretty cool. Try out the different patterns. And if you want to change the colours of all this, just press F3 and then start pressing tab. That should work. Let's try that again. Okay. I think if I've done something weird here, let's just do Control Backspace and F6 to restart everything. There's a few teething problems here and there, so I'm trying to work it out what's happening. So there's the sci-fi corridor, and let's put that down. Let's actually switch on one of these modes so we can snap to the grid a bit. Let's bring this to original colour so we can see it. Okay, so let's try that, and then if I press F3 and press tab, it should be adopting new colours, but for some reason I don't know why it's not. Okay, we're in new colours now, and there we go. So everything's got getting these new colours and tones. Needs a bit of work. Whatever I'm trying to do here seems a bit confusing because it does need a bit of work. Right, so that's all working fine. Yeah, but you can change these colours up to whatever you like. I'm just really bad at choosing colours right now. And that bit's still a little bit confusing, so it's a kind of beta feature, and I do need to make that clearer. So we can switch to the different pixel modes, see how that looks. You see in this mode it just looks weird, but this one's not too bad. So you kind of get an immediate effect from any picture that you want to load in. You could go online and find an image. Let's see, here's a little graph that I made. And even that looks good, so you can imagine that being some kind of UI piece turned into pixel art. You see how it looks in different styles. It does all the dithering for you. You can change the pattern out. This one looks really cool. So you can bring in your own graphics, convert them here, and save them back out, and that's you kind of got a newer version of what you wanted. You can also bring the gradient back in and fade the layer out. You can fade layers out by right clicking and dragging. It makes this box kind of around the layer, like that. There still needs to be layer functions created for like copy and pasting, but let's say for example you wanted to change the order of something. Let me just go to the shapes. So I'll clear everything, right? Let's come out of this pixel mode just for clarity. So let's say I'm in layer 10 and I've created this second ball in front of that one and I want to put it behind it. So what I can actually do is undo and go to layer 9 and then Control Alt Z. So when you use Control Alt Z, it will do the redo but in the selected layer. Right, so I can do that again. Let's say I'm in layer 13 and I put these 4 balls in front and I make a mistake. I'm like, oh, I didn't want those 4 to be there. I wanted 2 to be behind. So you can undo. So let's say I want these first 2 to be behind, right? Go down to another layer, do Control Alt Z, and then Control Shift Z, Shift Z. So I can choose, basically the order that way of like different plots. So that's where it's kind of different from Photoshop. In Photoshop you can't really go back and do these things easily. Maybe using the brush history you could do something, but it's just nice to be able to like change the order of things like that. So that's one of the features there. You can also press M to merge everything, and that turns everything into one layer. It clears all your undo history and just makes it kind of convenient to then keep plotting, because there is a limited number of plots. Down here it says plots used 9 out of 2048. Your machine could slow down based on the size of those plots. If you're using big high detail brushes, that could slow down. But you can bring in anything you like. You can bring in high res photos or really simple things. So here's an image I made before. This was made in Background Designer, one of the older versions, and yes, I can go ahead and turn a pixeled image into another pixeled image. So you see, even like where it's almost 1-to-1, I can add the new dither range to this, which wasn't there before. To their images, it's just a subtle overlay. That's what it's doing, and I can make new changes to that, test it in different modes, new color palettes, see how this all looks, play with the dither range in the image, and even change the colors. So if I go halfway here, you can see that changing. That, and change any sort of tone. Just press Control to update. And I can change all the black tones to something else and get this negative effect. Right click on any of these, click Control. A little bit of a interesting bug. Okay, so I just do that. Let's just go back to this mode. So for some reason this isn't actually updating as I expect. It could be that these all need to be turned up. Yeah, I think that's a bit better. And we're using the new tones. Okay, and we want to use those black tones as well. There we go, that's it. So there's a few things I need to make easier for users. There we go, you can see that update right away. And that's because I had it on F3 mode to affect all existing plots. So it's a good way to change something up quite easily. If you press F3, and you can get immediate look and feel from that. Switch it to different modes here as well. And try out these different color schemes. You even add in a bit of the sky and fade the merged layer out a bit to give you a different blend, and also try some of these. Let's bring that to new color. You can also hide layers on and off. You can isolate layers by alt clicking and then control clicking to get everything back. And yeah, you can also get rid of existing images by right clicking and saying yes, you want to get rid of that. Yes, that one. Get rid of that one. Okay, and still keeps reference of anything that it's drawn in memory, but when you reset that, that will basically all be gone. As you can see, all that's clear now, and yeah, that's all gone. I think it does certain things with brushes, so if I was to save this as a background file and it doesn't find this image, I reset and I try to load a file. Let's see, this one. So it does have some kind of reference of this image somewhere, and it managed to pull it in. So it's doing things that I don't even expect here, but that was interesting. So yeah, there's things that are working that I don't expect to work, and basically when you create new files in here, it stores them in a folder. In my case, it's storing them in custom brushes, and you can see there's a whole load in here. And it's got this brush sort list file, so it knows about all these merged images and things that it's used, in case you wanted those, and they're going to reference to these. Now if you want to clear these, clear all that folder up, you just go to edit, clear custom files, and just say yes, that it's going to get rid of all that. And so there might be some bugs crop up as you use this. It's a good idea to let me know, because it's just kind of moving out of alpha into beta, and it's fairly new. There's a lot of new features. There's only so much testing I managed to do. If you want more information, there's a help panel on the shortcut keys and a nice little workflow. There's also a YouTube playlist. So you click on that, that's going to open up your browser and go to the YouTube playlist of all the previous versions. You'll learn a lot of things here. And there's also the itch site where you can buy this. So it's going to be $5. Right now it's in alpha for $1, and I'm going to make it into beta. It's going to be $5 minimum. Feel free to support me by buying any other my other tools and shaders, so I can keep making these things. Some credits here. Thanks to London South Bank Uni, Andy Lemon, Saul, Nathan, Francesca, to name a few, for using this tool. A few features don't work just yet. You've got different UIs. So there's 3 different UI schemes at the minute, with more to come. And you can reset here, control backspace, does the same thing. And to escape, you just click escape twice, or press that button twice, and that's pretty much it. I'd love to show you more examples of what can be made, but this background here that you see, that was also made in Background Designer. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy using this tool, and please share any work that you make on Twitter. Any links that help me make some money from this would be great as well. That will encourage me to keep making updates and more brushes, and I look forward to see what you make. Thanks again, bye.